What's up, party people? So today is a very special testing day. Today we are testing out something that I've been so annoyed with, that's been so overhyped, and that is the Morphe James Charles palette. Yep, I did it. Now, the reason, or one of the reasons that I kind of held off from wanting to buy it for the longest time is because this is literally the only section that I would get use out of. These rainbow shades at the bottom, I'm just not going to use them. So here's what it looks like up close. You get 39 shades and a mixture of shimmers and mattes in here. And this is a pretty hefty palette. Like, this is bigger than the other palettes from Morphe. And it's also got a different kind of packaging. So most Morphe palettes are like the snap closure and they're plastic. This one's cardboard and it just has a magnetic closure. But the names aren't actually in the palette. So like the names aren't below the shadows or anything. He's doing one of these things where it's on the little plastic thing, and these I just don't keep. But something I did notice last night when I sat down to play with it and just to kind of get an idea of how it would work is that it seemed like the shimmers aren't as good as the mattes. The shimmers seem to be very sheer and very thin and not super pigmented like what I thought. But for the mattes, they did perform pretty well just from what I used last night. We're gonna see. We're gonna get all into it. And since there are so many different combinations that you could do with this palette, there are so many different looks you can create with it. I do want to do something fun and just do a different look on each eye. I literally just got this so I could review it for you guys and give you guys the dirty deets and really dive into something that is so overhyped and popular, and to really see if it's worth the hype and worth the money. So let's just go ahead and get started. And it's gonna suck to do a different look on each eye and then have to take it off afterwards because I'm actually going somewhere later, so I'll be doing my makeup quite a bit today, and I'm also doing another video, so it's gonna suck. I'm having a hard time holding this up and keeping it in the shot because it's so big. It's taking up literally my entire view on here. So I'm gonna go into this shade down here, which is just a nude skin tone shade. It's matte, and just go ahead and pack this on to protect my eyeshadow primer, to set my eyeshadow primer down. I'm gonna start off with this shade right over here, which is just a really light mid-tone, like matte tan shade. Put this all in the crease as our transition shade. I don't know if I want to lean more towards like the berry tones in here. I could do like a berry neutral tone dye, or if I want to do more of the browns, or both. We don't know. We'll figure it out as we go. So far I'm not having any blending issues or anything. It's blending out super well, and it doesn't seem to be too pigmented to where I have to be really light-handed with it. And I was looking at some inspiration pictures from today so I could kind of have an idea of what I wanted to do for the artsy side. And I saw a look that Angela Bright did. She did so many different looks with this palette. So if you want to see this palette in action, she is definitely the person to go to. So I'll link her channel below. It's just Angela Bright. But she did a really pretty neutral smoky eye with it. And for some reason, whenever I see this palette, I only see the vivid colors. Like, I don't see all the options that I could do for a neutral eye. So it just goes to show you how much you can really do with this palette. This is going to be less of a tutorial and more of like a try on demo kind of thing. So it's going to get repetitive. I'm going to be using a lot of shades, but it's just to review as much as possible. You guys know the drill. This is how I always do things. I'm going to go into this shade right here, which is just a mid-tone orangey tan shade. I feel like this is a pretty cool toned shadow right here, and I feel like there's not like one step up so that you can kind of build the gradient. I mean, the next step up that's kind of more in that range is this one right here, which is matte. So it kind of jumps from light to dark a little bit fast. So I would appreciate, you know, if there was like more mid-tone matte shades in there, but I mean, there's a lot, so you can't complain too much. But we're just gonna put this right in the crease as well. All right, so same kind of performance, works really, really well. No blending issues, no patchiness, unevenness, nothing like that. So I kind of want to do a reverse and do like a 180 and go back to maybe creating something that's more cool tone, because I feel like everyone is so tired of warm eye looks. And even though this is warm, I feel like it's still redeemable. Like, we can kind of reverse it and go into the cool tone direction. So let's go into this shade right here, which is what I was talking about, was kind of like several shades up from the first one we used over here. So I'm going to start this in the outer V and then start flowing it back into the crease, like in the lower portion of the crease, but keeping it below that first light tan shade. I'm trying to build it up, and the more I build it up, it starts looking more patchy and uneven. I don't know if you guys can see that, but we were on a real good roll. I'm really trying to work with this, and this just does not want to blend. So I'm going to take some more of that first light tan shade we used and go over that, because I'm really not liking that shadow. But let's just go into this shade right here. This is really catching my eye, which is just a really pretty deeper cranberry shade. Okay, so that shade didn't do too bad. I think it could have done better if it weren't for that other shade that messed it up underneath. Not too bad. I'm happy with that one. So I'm going to go back in with that second shade we used, which is that warmer orangey brown in here. It's one of the bigger ones. And I do want to put this back on top of the burgundy just because I know I said I wanted to do a cooler tone look, but the direction that it was taken wasn't impressing me very much. That don't impress me much. Okay, so now I think I'm going to go into this shimmery bronze right here and start using some shimmers. Let's try it dry first, and I'll probably end up wetting it, but I'm going to put this on from the inner corner, and we'll bring it out to almost the outer V. Ooh, I messed up my contact. Get back in there. Okay, when this is dry, this is not impressive at all. It's very flaky, kind of looks chunky. Ooh, yeah, this is going to have to be wet for sure. Okay, it definitely does work better when it's wet. So as you can see, I did pack it on and it looks okay, but it still doesn't look great. Let's try it with my finger. So here's what it looks like with my finger. It's not really a good swatching shimmer, but hopefully it kind of makes it more even with my finger. Okay, that is working better. So it's not super metallic or anything like I thought it would be. I feel like Morphe's pretty well known for their shimmers being like really like foiled and metallic, but it's not bad. Like it definitely applies better wet and with your fingers. So now I'm gonna go into this like shimmery, kind of satiny maroon right there and just put that in the outer V just to help the shimmer blend better into that matte shadow. But yeah, this is applying so much better than that gold. Okay, so see how it looks kind of blocky right there? It goes from gold to cranberry, and like there's nothing to fade it well. I'm gonna go into the shade that's, I'm pretty much using all the shimmers in here. I'm gonna go into the shade right here. It's in the same little L quad as the other two, but it's kind of like a coppery bronze, and I'm gonna put that in the middle of the two just to kind of fade them better and, you know, just to use something else. Let's put that right in between the two. This is probably gonna be the most underwhelming tutorial you're gonna see with this. Like I've seen a lot of artsy, really creative looks with this palette, and here I am. I'm gonna go back in with the gold shade on my finger and just kind of fade it into the copper once again, just so it doesn't look too blunt. And then I'm gonna go into, with another finger, I'm gonna go into that cranberry shadow and do the same thing on the other side. Kind of cool, not too bad. So I'm gonna go back into that first skin tone nude shade that we used, and I'm gonna put this on the brow bone to clean everything up. So I'm going to go in with the matte white in the middle of the palette and just kind of brighten this up right under the arch, just because that nude wasn't really cutting it for me. It's not as wide as I thought it would be, so I feel like that's a really pretty like cleanup shade. So now I'm going to go in with, let's do that first brush we used with that light tan shade, and let's bring it out to actually meet the tape where it's supposed to go. And then for inner corner highlight, let's go into this big old champagne shade right here and just brighten things up a little bit. It probably will look better once I have the whole shebang on, which I do want to do after I get this side done. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off, and we'll see, like we'll do a little examination of what the debris looks like. So it's not too bad. I've definitely had worse. So yeah, not too bad at all. Okay, so I think I am going to take an inspiration picture to do this side with, like I said, just because I'm not artsy enough. So this is Angela Bright's creation with it. I will definitely leave this video linked below, but I think this is very pretty. This is more wearable for me. It's definitely more up my alley than what I've seen. Like, I'm not really big into like the greens and the limes and the blues in here. Okay, so I'm going to go into this very bright neon yellow, and I think that's going to be my transition shade, which I think will actually be really pretty because I feel like yellow is a very weird color at first glance, but in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to creating eye look, it can be really pretty and flattering. Oh, lemon yellow, we have arrived. But I will say that this yellow seems to oxidize when it gets on the eye. Like, it's not as vivid and as bright yellow as it is in the pan. Maybe it's my brush. Maybe I just didn't clean it off well enough because I did use this last night with this palette. But it seems like as soon as it hits the eyelid, it kind of oxidizes and darkens and turns into more of an orangey cantaloupe shadow, which is fine. But if you're looking for something that's like a neon yellow like what's in the pan, it might not do it for you. But could also depend on your chemistry or the primer you used, whatever. So I'm going to go into this more neon orange shade down here and put that right below what we just did. Hopefully it actually shows up and doesn't look like the exact same shade. Yeah, it's just looking like a slightly darker version of that yellow, which is really weird. Like, when you swatch it, it's pretty vivid. Let's see what it looks like on my hands. Okay, is it my brush or what? I'm not having any blending issues or anything. There's not a lot of kick up or fallout in the pan or on my face, so that's a good thing. So I mean, it just looks like very a very gradient kind of look, which is good. I like that. So moving into the oranges. I'm not even looking at this picture. I could be straying away from this so far, but whatever. I need like a starting point. But I'm going to go into this shade right next to the neon, which is kind of like a neon coral. Okay, so once I have most of the shadow in the outer V and most of the products off the brush, I'm just going to kind of flow it through the lower socket into the inner corner, just so it peeks out above the eyelid shade too. So that shade's working really well. Like that's really, really pretty. And this is actually going really well so far. So now I'm gonna go into the red right under that. And he said this is supposed to be like an actual true red. Like it's not supposed to turn brown. It's not supposed to turn dark or anything. It's supposed to be legit red. I'm surprised that these neons are working as well as they are, because a lot of times there's blending issues with neons or colorful shadows, but this is working out really well, and it's not turning too dark or anything. With most red shadows or anything that has like a burgundy undertone to it, they just turn like a brown on me. Like they just kind of oxidize on my eyelids. I don't know what it is about my chemistry, but they just don't like red pigment. But this is very, very pretty. I'm gonna go into this like fuchsia raspberry purpley pink. So I'm gonna start putting this in the outer V, but I'm gonna work this over into the eyelid and let this be our eyelid shade. And this is working really well. It's not patchy or anything. A lot of like vivid purpley shades like this kind of look patchy sometimes. If you guys remember the Too Faced, what was it? The peach palette or whatever. Like I love that color selection, but the peaches, or not the peaches, the berry tones in there, they were so patchy on me and I just couldn't get them to work, and they also oxidized. But this one is working really, really well. So I'm just gonna continue to pack this on. So I don't really want to do much more than this, honestly, but I do want to do an inner corner highlight. So let's be different. Let's be like one of those artsy tutorial makeup artist people who do like a pop of color in the inner corner or something. Let's go into this baby blue shimmer right there. So going back into the matte skin tone shade and also the white, I'm just gonna go ahead and mix those two together. And just to show you what I'm talking about, it's this one right here, since I didn't show it earlier, and then let's see, this one and this one. So I'm mixing those two together. And I'm gonna put that on the brow bone and clean up this jazz. So there's like no fallout. I mean, that's pretty crazy considering these are colorful shadows that are neons and, you know, basically like pressed pigments. I think that's what he called them, pressed pigments. I don't think I'm gonna come back and do my lower lash line on camera with you guys, just because that's pretty boring. And for the most part, I just use the same shadows on the lower lash line, just not as many. So I'll come back with a full face on. So I'm gonna go do that, and we will come back and I'll give you guys the final verdict of whether or not I think this is worth it. All right, so this is actually after the video. I took off the neutral eye and I'm trying to even myself up so I look like a normal person. But I do want to show you guys that the neon yellow that was kind of turning like a cantaloupe orange before on this side is pretty neon yellow now. I don't know if it was just the brush I was using. Maybe there was like product on it that was brown. I don't know. It's neon yellow, so I just want to give you guys that update. All right, so I'm back with a full face, and I will have everything that I'm wearing linked below. I'm pretty impressed for the most part. The only thing I'm not impressed with is the shimmers. The shimmers look very chunky. I mean, I feel like the combination is really pretty. Like it looks better. Like I said, like it looks a lot better with mascara and liner and stuff on. But up close, the shimmers do look very chunky and just not very finely milled or anything. They do work. Like it's not the worst thing I've ever used in my life, but it's definitely not something to howl at the moon about. This side is really impressing me. I'm so shocked at how there's no patchiness, no unevenness. It looks very smooth. It's a really pretty fade. Do I think this is worth the price, worth the hype? I definitely do think it's worth the price, because I mean, for $1 per eyeshadow, you really can't beat that. I do want to keep playing with the shimmers. I mean, even when you look up close, hopefully you can see this, but you probably can't. But when you look up close, it has that like, that oily film on the shimmers, like, I don't know, like a cheap shadow would do. So I don't really know. The cranberry shade doesn't. It's basically just the bronzy copper and then that gold. That gold for sure. Like the gold's the one that I'm just liking the least right now. But do I think it's worth the hype? I mean, I don't think most things that are hyped up are worth the hype. I feel like people get way too excited over things that are pretty common for the most part. Now, I will say one unique thing about this is the fact that you have this many colors and this many neutrals in one palette. So like there are tons of palettes on the market that have the neutral selection, and there are several palettes on the market that have just like the vivid color selection as well. But to find one palette that has both of those qualities, I think that is rare. There could be a few more like neutral matte like kind of shades that would go down here, but it is what it is. I'm not saying I'm a sucker for it yet, but I do enjoy it more than I thought I would. So yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and enjoyed the way I went about doing it. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe, and also hit the notification bell to be notified with all my videos, especially since I'm not uploading consistently and like on the same days each week. You always want to be notified of when I do upload so that you don't miss one. So yeah, I'll see you guys in my next one. Mwah.